Well, it's quite a week. It's quite an amazing week looking at the Bulls. It feels as if we are just circling at this point, as if the Bulls are in the midst of making moves. This isn't it, right? We are kind of watching this thing hopefully come to more fruition.
Well, I mean, they're trying. They remain active. I always say it takes, 2, sometimes 3 teams to make a trade. So they've got to find partners. But, yeah, they've got a crowded guard room. And, Coby White and Ayo Dosunmu's name have been out there for months. I mean, we've been talking about their futures dating back to last offseason, given that they're headed to unrestricted free agency. But, yeah, Arturas and Mark and their staff have been busy this week. And I think it's been pretty well documented. They've been active for a while, and they've obviously been able to find a couple of moves to this point already.
Which of the 2 moves made yesterday, Casey, in your mind, after reflecting on it for at least 12 hours, was maybe the bigger or more significant one?
I think they're both kind of similar. I mean, they're basically aligned with what he's been doing in terms of recent acquisitions, and that's, finding young talent that has NBA experience that's kind of fallen out of favor with their current teams. I mean, Jaden Ivey is headed to restricted free agency, and it was pretty clear from most accounts that Detroit did plan to pay him. And then Anfernee Simons is headed unrestricted free agency, and the same thing. So, what he's doing is he's taking expiring contracts and players that probably didn't fit on the timeline that Matas Buzelis and Josh Giddey are on, and turning them into younger talent that they may or may not, pay for the long term, and align them on the same timeline. And that's really what, you look to the Lonzo Ball, Isaac Okoro deal, the Jalen Smith signing. That's kind of what he's doing with his recent acquisitions.
I was asking David, we don't know the answer to this question. I'm hoping you can direct me. The Michael Conley Jr. Contract is basically a $10 million contract, expiring deal. Do those still have worth in the NBA? Is that an asset in a potential trade? Is it merely whatever draft capital you have? Is there anything that taking on salary does for a team?
Well, I mean, you saw it with Saric already, right? I mean,
yes.
He was an expiring deal that never made it here. So, the word around the league that you hear is that, don't expect to see Conley here long term, whether that be by Thursday they reroute him or a buyout candidate or,
right.
Here just until the end of the season and then turns into cap space. But, yeah, Conley's not a long term.
No, but I mean, is that a value? Is the expiring contract element of any value? It once was.
Not quite the same, but certainly possible. And I can guarantee you that, like I said, they remain active, so you might see that rerouted by Thursday. You got to wait and see. But obviously the difference being, Simons and Ivy, they're going to take a look at those guys before they make a contractual decision. And I assume both those guys will be playing down the stretch of the regular season here.
7 guards on the roster. You would expect that's going to change, whether it's Ayo, Coby, Trey Jones, one of those 3, maybe 2 of those 3 could be on the move. Coby's been linked to Houston. You see all kinds of rumors surrounding Ayo in terms of the interest, especially as well as he has been playing of late, KC. Did you get any sense after the game and talking to players in that locker room in Milwaukee last night, what sense they have of what could come next? Would you rate one possible guard going over the other?
No, I can just tell you that it's real. I mean, I've been around a lot of locker rooms and a lot of trade deadlines, and this one just feels different for multiple reasons. I mean, the biggest of which I keep bringing this point up, but we literally have been. I remember taping an episode of the Fast Break for our CHSN YouTube channel and webpage last April, and talking about how maybe you got to trade Ayo Dosunmu and Coby White and get ahead of their unrestricted free agency status. So there's that element to it, and then obviously these players aren't dumb. They see how active the Bulls have been. So it just has a more real, heavy feeling to it this trade deadline. And we were able to talk to Coby pregame, and he obviously talked about the reported deal of Vooch, which hasn't been finalized yet, and just what he meant to the locker room, and he was pretty somber. I mean, he admitted that this is part of the business, and the quote he said is we're expected to be robots, but there's a human element to this, and there was a heavy feel to the locker room yesterday. The game, was pretty secondary. They were obviously shorthanded with only 9 players dressing, and it just had it kind of felt like there was a funk in the locker room. Just guys were in their heads a little bit, and it's understandable. I mean, this is a difficult time and uncertain time and a stressful time with the trade deadline.
As part of that Vooch deal, the Bulls get their choice of second-round picks, the way I was reading it, one of which is New Orleans, which could be the first pick in the second round, the way things are going. When you look at a pick like that, is there extra value to that because you are not it's not a first-round pick? In other words, you can have different contract distinctions. You can either pay more money, pay less money, pay a shorter term. Is there value in that? And I guess the main question would be, do the Pelicans want that back as part of a trade that they could do for a Zion Williamson?
Don't know the answer to the latter. I can tell you that in terms of value, you nailed it. I mean, that's exactly why it's valuable for multiple reasons. And, just in general, stockpiling draft assets is a good thing. They obviously picked up the 2 second-round picks, although they're not nearly as valuable because they're going to be back later in the round, but earlier in the week, and their draft capital's intact. So, that was a nice little feather there in that reported Vooch trade was that second round pick that is going to be probably a pretty valuable one. So it's again an example of turning a player that didn't fit your current timeline, that Vooch was headed to unrestricted free agency and didn't really factor in their future plans, and getting what you can for him. And you also had the runway to take a look at Simons. I mean, he's also headed to unrestricted free agency and makes $28 million. I don't have a sense on his market yet this summer, but I don't think it's that. But maybe he'll be too expensive for your future plans. But you have time now to make that decision. You get a chance to see how he plays and how he fits with the current roster as well.
Casey, as you know, our colleague at CHSN, Kendall Gill, on Bulls Countdown Live last night, reacted to the deals immediately and said, okay, now you make a package and you have draft picks and the players, and whatever the Bucks want for Giannis, you have to get into that conversation. ESPN reported that the Bucks have countered offers for Giannis. To your knowledge, have the Bulls made one or discussed one for Giannis?
I can just keep coming back to the direct answer to that question is I don't know. I mean, I think all teams probably talk about every player. That's kind of their job. I mean, that's what these front offices do. And I'm certain, I would guess that, knowing that the Bucks are listening to offers, you at least pick up the phone and make a call. I don't know that. I'm not reporting that. I'm just saying that's what front offices do. The second thing I would say is I've been saying for a while, I'd be surprised if the Bulls go against everything they've been publicly saying and saying they're going to skip steps here. And they've been saying, we're not going to skip steps. We're going to be patient. We're going to do this rebuild methodically. If you go get a Giannis, you're taking everything you've just acquired, and you basically have Giannis and one or two. I mean, Modest wouldn't be here. Getty may or may not be here. You don't have a lot left is my point. And then the other thing I would say is the sense in Milwaukee, and I don't know if you guys saw it, Giannis's pregame interview with the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Like, he's pretty adamant about how, I mean, I know he's kind of word salad guy at times, but that's pretty direct. He's like, my ideal would be being a Buck for the rest of my career. And sense in Milwaukee is that it's not certain that he's going to be traded by Thursday. The Bucks are just sifting through so much, and there are more teams in play in the offseason, and there's still a small question mark of whether or not the Bucks even want to trade him. So I personally am not expecting a Giannis to the Bulls trade.
I'm curious, KC, when we talk about Jaden Ivey, obviously he was a highly drafted player and he started out very successful in the NBA, waylaid by injury. That was a bad injury, broke his leg and had to get his knee redone. And it usually takes time for that sort of thing. I'm just curious, he's a restricted free agent. Would he be a guy who might be easier to sign if they wanted to do that, just because, there is an uncertainty about how much money he's worth, what he can do moving forward? Could they get him on a sort of team-friendly deal by going to him in restricted free agency as opposed to someone like Coby who's headed to unrestricted free agency?
Yeah, certainly possible. And I can just say, as I said before, the thing that I read about these deals is like you have a pretty long, audition here where you can kind of see how Ivey and Simons fit with your current team, how it's constructed, style of playoff stuff. So you have time to make a contractual decision. But if you're asking me to bet of the ones that I'm pretty sure they traded to have stick around for the long term, that's not to say Simons is a no, but Ivey I'm pretty confident in. I mean, they just that because he's on for multiple reasons, just because he really, really fits in terms of age, style of play, restricted free agency as opposed to unrestricted free agency. And again, I keep coming back to Coral, 5th overall pick, Ivey, 5th overall pick. This is what Arturas is doing. He is mining other teams, kind of players that have fallen out of favor but have NBA experience and were once highly touted lottery picks.
So last night we learned from Billy Donovan that Zach Collins could be shut down in a couple weeks, possibly. Vooch is in Boston. Jalen Smith started at center and he was on a minutes limit. I know that there's got to be another move or component to these trades because there's no one really to play center. The Bulls don't have many front court players. I wonder, Casey, I know it's hard to pinpoint, but are you hearing any names of possible targets for the Bulls? Or what is the plan? They do play tomorrow.
Well, you're missing the Lachlan Olbrich era, number one.
Okay, I'm sorry. Apologies to Australia.
I'm just joking. No, I mean, I would just say this, and I was saying this for the last week. Everyone's like, is their current play, are they going to go for the playoffs or are they going to get active in the trade? I was always saying, they are not in the weeds on the short term right now. They are not. They've said different messaging on media day. They didn't bring up playoffs. They brought up building while competing. So they are thinking long term. And are they thin at center now? Absolutely. And that's not their – I mean, would they like to try to get a center by Thursday? Sure. But that's not the immediate focus. They're just going to make the best deals possible, and then they have time to reset the roster and fix it this offseason. They're still going to have a lot of flexibility this offseason too. I wouldn't expect whatever gets done between now and Thursday or doesn't get done between now and Thursday doesn't mean that they're not still going to be active this offseason. So obviously you need Smith to get healthy at some point this season. I expect that to happen and his minutes to go back up. Collins is a question mark, but long term, they're going to address the center position, whether that's by Thursday or not. I can't tell you.
Domantas Sabonis has been a name that's been mentioned, perhaps because he's Lithuanian. I don't know. What about, I've not heard anyone mention who's the kid from Denver? He's Lithuanian. I mean, are we just looking for Lithuanian centers at this point?
No. I mean, we might as well just go down the whole league. You guys have mentioned 1,000 names, and that's really the nature of all these teams. That's what they do. They talk about a million guys. The only center that's been linked to the Bulls is that Messi from New Orleans. Haven't heard a lot about that lately, but there's 36 hours left.
Right.
I haven't looked at the clock. But like I said, bigger picture. They're aware that they're short in the front court, and at some point, whether it's by Thursday or this offseason, they're gonna rebalance the roster for sure. or try to.
Is Ayo Dosunmu a player whose market has expanded because of the type of month that he enjoyed in January? And boy, he is playing at a high level. And if that's the case, has that surprised you, Casey?
I mean, Ayo Dosunmu to me was valuable. Obviously, the way he's playing is increasing that value, but he's a rotation player for all 30 teams in the league. That's just because of he can start, he can come off the bench, he can guard, he can shoot from three, he can attack the rim. He's a good team guy. He's a leader. He's tough. He doesn't miss a lot of games. So he fits everywhere. Now you got to pay him, and so the team that's trading for him has to have that situation figured out for their future books, because he's going to have a pretty big salary increase coming up here, and he's earned it. He's really, really committed person and player and teammate. And I've heard and talked many times, and other people have reported this, that the Bulls are open to extending him. So we'll see what happens between now and Thursday. I know he's extremely valued by the Bulls, but I also know he has value in the market. So that's a decision that Arturas and his staff have to make between now and Thursday.
What is the value of having a big amount of money available at the end of the season? I read somewhere they were going to have $68 million. Then it said the other day it's down to close to 40-something because of these moves, just taking on different contracts, which are in motion. We have no idea. But what is the value of that? Does that mean it doesn't appear that there are great stars available with that money? I just am curious as to what they might do in terms of freeing money or not freeing money.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look at their books yet. I can just tell you that, when I was mentioning Ivy probably in their long-term plans before, he's got a significant salary cap hold. So that's the kind of stuff that immediately cuts into cap space. So it definitely has dropped. That said, there still will be some. I would guess, again, I haven't had a chance to look at the numbers. It's been a busy stretch of trades and games and traveling.
Yeah.
What I would say is, you can still use cap space in different ways now than just going out to outright sign free agents. You can make a bid for restricted free agents and tie up a player you covet with an offer sheet. You can do sign and trades with your old players. You can take in, lopsided money trades with cap space from other teams. So whatever that number ends up being this offseason, this is what I keep saying. Whatever happens between, they've already done a lot. They may still do more between now and Thursday. And if they do, or whatever they do or don't do by Thursday, they're not done. This is a pretty aggressive reset of the roster. And, I think fans have been surprised, but those of us around the team are not as surprised because of what we've been reporting and talking about for a couple weeks, how active they've been, and just the messaging has been different from management from media day on. So I'm not that surprised at what's going on. I know fans seem to be pleasantly surprised, and that's probably a good thing. And look, they got a long way to go. I mean, you can make all these moves and change all the furniture, but now you got to start having teams coalesce and players meshing, and not just this season, but for the future. And Modest needs to keep progressing and on and on and on. So they have a long way to go, but there's certainly been a nice little burst of activity this week.
Great stuff, Casey. Thank you, buddy.
Thanks, Casey.
All right, guys. Call me in like 3 months. Talk to you soon.
Oh, wow. Ouch.
Oh,
Goodbye.
yeah, that hurts.
Yeah. Yikes.
Don't want to hear from you again. Is that what he's saying?
A lot of activity. You wonder if it means accomplishment. That's always the distinction, right?
Oh, no question. Listen, something's going on. They're doing something. We don't know what yet. And when this does rest, we'll be able to look overall at it and determine what they're up to.